This is the day the Lord has made. We are going to rejoice and be glad in it. Greater is He who is in us than the one who is in the world. My name is Taman Sekhaich. Welcome to God's Heart Mission family. I'm so privileged that you could be part of the teaching today. I pray that this word will minister to you. It will serve as confirmation, guidance, and grant you the clarity that you might be seeking. Please take the word back to the Lord and ask Him if it's coming from Him and who am I to Him, and yeah. Get all of that. Do your due diligence. You know the drill, right? It's our responsibility to test the spirit, to test the word. So I have a word that I would like to share with you that the Lord impressed in my heart this morning. And He was speaking about doors. God was speaking about doors. And this comes from a vision that I had. So the vision that I had was I was in a room. And in this room, I was standing in front of a door. And all of a sudden, the door just closes shut. It literally, and I could audibly hear, obviously in my spirit, that sound of it shutting. And I felt like it was not only being closed, but it was being shut closed, right? And I came out of the vision. So when I sought the Lord for what was He communicating through the vision, He just said, close doors. I am closing their door. I am closing their door. And I'm like, huh? Right? Now we know obviously the famous verse that speaks about Christ, closing doors that won't be, that no one can open, and opening doors that no one can close. But the God of glory took me actually to Genesis for this particular word. And he's speaking specifically about closing doors, Himself closing those doors, right? And the God of glory took me to chapter 7, verse 16. And I will read from that quickly from my NLT. And it says, no, I start from 13 actually. So from 13 up until 16, the word says, that very day Noah had gone into the boat with his wife and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives. With them in the boat were pairs of every kind of animal, domestic and wild, large and small, along with birds of every kind. 2 by 2 they came into the boat, representing every living thing that breathes. A male and female of each kind entered, just as God had commanded Noah. Then the Lord closed the door behind them. You see that last part says, then the Lord closed the door behind them. So it's interesting to note that Noah built the ark and that door, and then did what the Lord told him, put animals in there, put his members of his household, wives to his children, everybody went in there that the Lord had commanded to be in that boat. Take note of that, family. Animals, male and female, birds of the air, etc., went into the ark, right? And it's interesting to note that it's not Noah who closed the door, but it's the Lord who closed the door behind them. And the Lord started to highlight the fact that He's doing this, closing that door in your life to preserve you. Because understand that He was going to bring about flooding into the whole of the earth for 40 days, 40 nights. The earth was going to be flooded. So obviously, they needed to be preserved, right? So when the Lord started to highlight the latter part of this scripture where He speaks about the Lord Himself closing the door behind them, He went a bit further and said that to maintain, God help me, just help me. The Lord Himself was the one preserving them. Okay, His presence, right, that closed the door behind them remained there in order to preserve Noah and the cohort, right? Because you can kind of imagine what it must have looked like when the earth, the land became wet and things were falling and things were moving from the left to the right. There was debris and all sorts of things. I don't know, guys. I wasn't there, but I can just imagine that there would be things knocking against this boat, right? But the God of glory was saying that it was controlled access into the boat and controlled access out of the boat. But He was doing it because He was giving them divine protection. and he was divinely preserving them, but it was his presence that kept them also intact to make sure that they would still be safe regardless of what was going on around them, with the flooding and everything going from wherever direction and however it looked like, that God's presence itself would serve as a shelter still. It would serve as a covering still. It would serve as protection still over and above the safety of the ark. You with me, family? Right? So that's what the God of glory was ministering to me. So when you feel that a door has been closed, or God has highlighted to you that this door has been closed, it's important to always sought the Lord for what the God of glory is doing, right? Because not every door that is closed is because it's the enemy that's sealing it off. Some doors, they are literally being closed from behind us by God himself for his purpose, right? He's the one sitting with the plans, and he knows why he's closing those doors. And he's trying to keep you safe. This is what this word is about. He's preserving you, and it's for your protection. So don't try and kick open that door, because you won't be able to. Because the presence of God is the one guarding the door, right? Making sure that there's nothing coming out and there's nothing going in, because they stayed in there for those 40 days, 40 nights. There was nobody coming out and nobody going in. The door was closed by the Lord for that period of time. So it could be a door that the Lord has shut for a certain time because he wants to preserve you and protect you during this time. And it could be a door that's permanently shut. I don't know. The God of glory didn't specify. But again, that's where you and me always take the word back to the Lord to get more clarity and direction and confirmation, right? I want to touch on Proverbs 19, verse 21. That speaks about we make the plans, but it's the God of glory's purpose that will stand, right? At the end of the day. So some doors we don't have control over, whether they are being opened or closed, because that's entirely up to the God of glory, what he wants to do, and that has to be in alignment or in accordance to his purpose over our lives. So Proverbs 19, verse 21 says, hold on, family, let me just. You can make many plans, but the Lord's purpose will prevail. You can make many plans, but the Lord's purpose will prevail. So don't try and kick open that door, because it is the Lord who closed it from behind you. And like I said, he did it for your protection, for his purposes, for his plans, for his will over your life. So long as you are intact, safe, sound, and sustained, know that it's God's will, and you've got peace about it as well. Know that it's God's will. If you don't have peace about it, sought the Lord's face about it, and he will reveal his heart to you regarding that particular door. But trying to knock it down is not going to work, because it's God's very presence that is standing at that door. All right. So yeah, with that being said, family, I will love and leave you, and I will be back as and when the Spirit of God leads me. Remain blessed.